Well, here we are at Inside Ascension, and we are so blessed today to be sitting here with Mr. Roy Quezaire, who, by the way, the last time that he was in this studio was not a studio. It was actually a courtroom.
Courtroom, yes.
And we are going to talk to him about this. He is a lifelong resident of Donaldsonville. He served for 16 years in the legislature, and then 4 years as the legislative liaison with the Department of Transportation and Development. He is literally an icon of public service and of help for all of us here in the Ascension Parish area. He is currently serving as the Chief Governmental Relations Officer for the Port of South Louisiana, and we are going to talk to you about a whole host of things.
Sure.
But we are so blessed to have you here in our studio today, so good to see you.
It's good to see you. Good morning. Thank you all for the invitation. I'm delighted and excited to be here and just participate in this session with you all. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to you. So when you came into this studio, it wasn't a studio when you were here last.
No, it was the courtroom. And matter of fact, the parish council used to conduct its meetings here. And it was just to see this transform now into this fabulous studio is amazing. It's wonderful.
And I want to start today by talking a little bit about you and your history, your life of being a public servant and starting in Donaldsonville.
Sure.
So start with me there. Tell me a little bit about how did you decide to live this life of public service?
Well, I tell you what, as a little boy growing up in Donaldsonville, lifelong resident there, it was just, to me, I felt obligated and committed to being of service to the community. I share this story with a lot of my friends and individuals that ask me, well, what sparked your interest in becoming a public servant? I said, well, if you really want the story, let me give it to you. I said, my brother and I and my cousins, all the boys in the neighborhood right there in Donaldsonville off of Railroad Avenue from William Street, every summer we would play from sun up to sundown, enjoy the summer months, and it was just joyous times. And we would ride our bicycles, we would fish in the Bayou Lafourche, skateboards, the whole 9 yards, football, basketball, baseball, just played all the sports. And one summer evening in the month of June, I remember this, my cousins and I and the boys in the neighborhood and my brother, we set up about 3 or 4 different bicycle racing teams. And there were about 3 individuals on each team. And the start line was in the front door of my family's house, 319 William Street, right around the corner from City Hall, and the finish line was there. So we had teams assembled, and we would go around the block, and we were trying to be first. And I remember when it was my time to get on the bike, when my partner came around the corner, got to the finish line, gave me the bike, I jumped on, and then I got to the corner, made a left, and got right in front of Wright Furniture Store, which is now Yards, directly across from City Hall. I stopped because I always admired being well-groomed. I saw a lot of men getting out of their vehicles that time of the evening, going into a building, and they were dressed. It was summer months, so they had on seersucker suits, the whole 9 yards, dapper dons, and it got my attention. So I stopped, slowed down, and started observing them going into that building. Then I got off my bike and sat on the windowsill of the showroom there and just stared at these gentlemen. And I thought about, oops, I'm in a race. So I got on the bike and went back around, got off. I went inside and passed the bike off to my next partner, team member. I went inside, and my mother was cooking the evening meal in the kitchen. And I asked her, I said, Mama, I see a lot of men dressed in suits, and the police chief and the fire chief, and going to the into this building. What's going on? She said, "Oh, that's the mayor, the city councilman, the bankers, the chief of police, the fire department, the whole 9 yards were going. They go into City Hall to conduct the town hall meeting, city meeting, and city council meeting, and they're taking care of the business of the city." And being a precocious young boy, I said, "Well, okay, why isn't my daddy going in that building?" And she turned the fires down low underneath the pots on the stove, and she sat me at the kitchen table, and she said, "Let me tell you why this is." And she gave it to me, and things were segregated then in those days. And when she finished, she said, "And that's not good. That's not right in God's eyesight." And she said, "And that's the way it is now, but it will change." And when she finished, I stood up and was walking out of the kitchen, and I told her, I said, "Mama, one day I'm going to go in City Hall, and I'm going to take care of the business of the city."
Well, you sure did, didn't you?
Yes.
Not just there, but at the state level and all
Yeah.
these years later.
Well, what happened was my mom looked at me, she hugged me, gave me a hug, me, patted me on my shoulder and said, "Get on back outside and play." But really that sparked my interest in being of service as a young boy. And as I grew and matured and just got involved in various organizations and social things, and it just grew from there. But my first elective office was from 86 to 90 as an Ascension Parish school board member. So, and then 16 as a state representative, District 58, which encompassed at those time, during those days, 5 parishes: Iberville, Ascension, Assumption, St. James, and the West Bank of St. John the Baptist. I had one of the largest districts in the state as far as House of Representative was concerned. But no, I just wanted to be of service, and it just went from one thing to the other. But I tell you what, I didn't go into City Hall. I've been asked many, many times through the years to run for mayor, but I said no. I chose to go into a bigger hall, the House of Representatives. But my best friend, Mayor Leroy Sullivan, is doing an outstanding job, and he's there, and I have his back.
And I tell you what, he is an eloquent speaker.
Oh yes, and he's a go-getter too.
And he is a true go-getter.
Yes, absolutely.
And speaking of go-getters, you yourself are. What is your crowning moment having served in the legislature? Was there one, or what is your most proud moment?
Well,
and I'm sure there are many.
There are many.
Just give me a highlight of something.
I tell you what, well, having served under 3 different governors, my first 4 years was 92 to 96 under Governor Edwin Edwards, God rest his soul. My second term, the next 8 years, was under Governor Mike Foster, God rest his soul. And the last 4 years was under Governor Blanco, God rest her soul. But being there and immersing myself into the subject matters and trying my very best to strike a balance and make a difference, and bringing about deliverables back to the people whose shoulders back home that I was standing on, which is the 58th district at that time, and working with the governmental entities in 5 parishes, parish councils, parish presidents, municipalities, school boards, law enforcement, sheriff departments. It was just a joy and pleasure to be of value and to be of service to them. But during my last 4 years, I became the chairman of the House of Representative Transportation Committee. Governor Kathleen Blanco called me into her office. She said, if you have a minute, come up, Quezaire, I'd like to speak to you. Went up to her office, and she said, look, I have a conflict on my schedule, and if you could do this for me, I would sincerely appreciate it. I said, sure, what is it, Governor? She said, well, look, I have an invitation I've received to go to Florida to the launching of the historic space expedition of John Glenn, which was one of the first ones that went up in space, and he'll be going back in space because he became a U.S. Senator and then returned at age 70, going back into space. And they called that flight the Friendship 7. And it was him and 6 other young astronauts that flew, that went back up on that space shuttle. But she said, I can't make it, but because you're the chairman of the House Transportation Committee and you're doing such an outstanding job, you've anchored yourself into the subject matter. If you don't mind, would you mind representing me in the state of Louisiana at that space launch? I said, wow, yes, no doubt. I will definitely
cool, huh?
do that, yes. So that was one of the highlights to do that. But every day, rubbing elbows with senators and representatives throughout the state of Louisiana, basically engaging and solving problems and doing our very best to solve the problems or tackle the issues during those times. To me, that was very, very special because it established friendships that's for life. You know, even though we're not in office anymore, but when I see former colleagues, wow, it's a reunion. But it was great in serving with Juba Diaz. Boy, he was the chairman when I was the vice chairman.
Another
of the
icon
committee.
from the
An
Ascension
icon.
Parish area.
I called him the door opener because he assisted me a lot, and I give him all of the accolades because of his assistance. And he pushed me. He said, yeah, you're going to do this. You can do this. I said, oh, you sure, Juba? He said, Holmes. He called me Holmes, homeboy. You got it. But no, those was just some great times, just being there. And those were some very, very long hours. And you just had to
But unforgettable.
tackle it. Yeah, unforgettable.
The port,
Yes.
the waterways. I'm not sure that it resonates with everyone, the significance of connecting our industry and our industry partners along the waterways and what a significant role that plays
Yes.
to not only the people of Ascension, but Louisiana and across the country and across the world for that matter.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us about your role and maybe put a perspective to all of us here watching this
Sure.
about the role of the ports and how that connects to us?
Sure, absolutely. And thank you for asking that question. The Port of South Louisiana, as well as the other 31, there are 32 ports in the state of Louisiana. There are coastal ports. There are deep water ports like Baton Rouge, Port of Baton Rouge, Port of South Louisiana, Port of New Orleans, Port of Plaquemines, Port of St. Bernard. And there are inland ports along other tributaries and waterways throughout the state of Louisiana. Louisiana ports play an integral role and a very, very important role in the global economy. This mighty Mississippi River that flows through our beautiful parish and connects Louisiana and connects Ascension Parish to 32 states in the north and 2 Canadian provinces to the south, the Gulf of Mexico, and the rest of the world. There are ships that's coming into the docks at the various ports, especially the 5 deep water ports here along the Mississippi River from basically all over the world. And they're transporting products. I mean, the agricultural products that Louisiana contributes to the world. We're helping feed the world, to be honest with you. The positive rippling effects of the economic impact of the jobs of the maritime industry that the maritime industry brings to the table is just enormous, and there's room for growth. As the world grows, the world's population is increasing. There will always be a need for to help feed the world. So our agricultural products play an important role throughout the global economy, throughout the world, and the industrial products from A to Z, for which we're here in the industrial corridor, touches the entire world. I mean, I cannot tell you where it doesn't reach. If you think about everything we use from A to Z in our everyday lives, the clothes we wear, everything, the houses we live in, the cars we drive, the food we consume, just A to Z. These industrial products are a main component of them. So agriculturally and industrially, Louisiana, and especially the river parishes, play a heck of a role in the world economy. When I first got to this port in February 18th of 2012, I was hired as a special projects officer, getting involved with projects that the executive director at that time wanted me to assist in bringing into fruition. Worked in that position for a while, and then the next executive director came in, and I became the deputy director and was over a lot of the aspects and the operations and daily maneuvers of the port. And our latest executive director, Paul Matthews, he said that to me one day. He said, "Roy, with all the years of experience you have at the Capitol, I would like to make you, want you to think about this position that I want to create for you, and because you bring this expertise to the table." I said, "Well, what's that?" He said, "Well, I want you to become the Chief Governmental Relations Officer for the Port of South Louisiana. Nobody knows the legislative process, the ins and outs, getting money, getting projects properly postured than you here at the port. So I would appreciate it if you would consider taking that position and running with it." So I've been doing that the last two and a half years.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Quite arguably, you are Ascension's premier connector of people, important people. The port is the connector of all of us to the world. So you are quite arguably in the best position that you could be to keep Louisiana and Ascension Parish moving forward, and we're so thankful to have you there. Another thing I want to ask you today is, can you remember in Donaldsonville, in its heyday, this beautiful facility, this grandiose facility that created beautiful music called True Friends Hall?
Yes. Oh, wow.
True Friends Hall, where beautiful music was made. Your family has a good connection with that.
Absolutely. True Friend, it was a True Friend Benevolent Society. There were benevolent societies that were organized in the African American communities, neighborhoods throughout the state, to be honest with you, and beyond. But yet the True Friends was they were involved with the community. They were there being of assistance to individuals, to families, to organizations, to churches, in any way they could fit in. Those benevolent and beautiful, driven, spirited, driven individuals, those men were there. I remember as a little boy that back in those days, they would have the annual balls where it was fabulous, where the ladies were were dressed in the gowns and the gentlemen in the tuxedos. And we being little boys in the neighborhood, we couldn't go to those balls,
Of course
but
not.
we were excited about this happening. So we would go, about 10 of us, 12 of us, every year for the ball. We would go and get some milk crates and stack them up and pierce into the windows, looking into the windows and seeing those people dancing and just promenading all through on the building there. I mean, it was just fabulous to see that. It looked like they were gliding. But I do remember that, and the barber shops were on both sides of the. Had a barber shop on the right hand side and the left hand side of the True Friends Hall. But that was the social mecca of the community there.
And your father
Yes,
was
my
connected.
father, Roy Quezaire Sr., he was a member. He was a member of it, and he was at one point the recording secretary. And I have some of the artifacts in his briefcase where he recorded the minutes, and to see to read the parliamentary procedure process. I mean, they dotted the I's and crossed the T's, and it was just amazing to see that. And it's a treasure that matter of fact, I brought it around to the River Road African American Museum with Kathy Hambrick and them, and shared it with them on some of the events that they've had. But it was just beautiful. But that organization really defined its name, benevolence, and they struck a balance and made a difference throughout the community.
As we get ready to celebrate Black History Month, what wisdom can you impart to future young leaders?
I would look them in the eye and tell them that there are treasures inside of you, deep down inside of you, individually and collectively. There are treasures, and instilled in each and every one of us is the power to become and the ability to carry on in spite of what challenges you may face. Having a high level of self-esteem, self-believability, envision yourself crossing the finish line and attaining your goals and objectives. And man is at his tallest when he reaches out, grab the hand of his fellow man, and open doors of opportunity, or pull his fellow man up to higher heights. To me, that's the essence of being a public servant. Being of value, knowing your subject matter, be good at what you do, and secondly, being of service to all.
Mr. Roy Quezaire, you are a treasure to all of us here, and it's such a pleasure to have you on
Thank you so much.
our set today. And come back anytime.
Sure, I will definitely do so. But this has just been a joy and a pleasure because to be here with you all. I was driving over this morning from Donaldsonville. I said, well, I wonder what it's going to be like, But wow, this is beautiful.
You come on back anytime you want.
Will do. Sounds good.